When people today hear the word meditation, they often imagine someone sitting cross-legged in silence, eyes closed, perhaps with soft music playing in the background. For many, it has become a symbol of peace, relaxation, and relief from the stress of modern life. Companies promote it as a tool for productivity. Schools introduce it as a method for calming children, and wellness industries advertise it as a shortcut to happiness. While there is nothing wrong with using meditation to reduce stress or to feel calmer, there is a deeper truth that is often forgotten. Meditation, in the original teaching of the Buddha, was never meant to be seen as the final goal. It was a means, a path, a tool that supports something greater. To see meditation only as the destination is to misunderstand its true role, like confusing a doorway for the home itself. This misunderstanding is not new. Even during the time of the Buddha, there were seekers and spiritual teachers who placed supreme importance on meditation techniques, believing that reaching certain states of calmness or mystical absorption was the highest achievement. Some of them attained deep states of concentration, where the body felt absent and the mind seemed infinite. Yet the Buddha pointed out that these states, no matter how sublime, still belong to the world of conditioned experience. They were impermanent, subject to arising and passing away, and could not in themselves bring complete freedom from suffering. This is why he emphasized that meditation must always be understood in connection with wisdom. Without wisdom, meditation can easily become another attachment, another thing we cling to, another identity we build for ourselves. Imagine a traveler who needs to cross a dangerous river. He works hard to build a raft out of wood and ropes. That raft is essential, for without it he cannot cross to the other side. But once he reaches the far shore, if he were to lift the raft onto his back and carry it everywhere he goes, it would become a burden. Meditation is like that raft. It is vital for crossing the floods of confusion, desire, and fear, but it is not to be mistaken for the shore itself. The shore, the final destination, is freedom of the mind, the end of clinging, the realization of truth. When we look closely at the teachings, meditation is presented as part of a larger path. It works alongside ethical living and the development of clear understanding. If a person meditates daily but still lives with greed, hatred, and delusion, the practice does not fulfill its purpose. On the other hand, if meditation is used wisely, it becomes a mirror that allows us to see the movements of the mind clearly. It trains attention, steadiness, and calm so that insight can arise. The insight is what changes us, not the act of sitting still with closed eyes. The calm states are beautiful, but they are only temporary conditions. The wisdom that comes from using meditation properly is what transforms the heart. In the modern world, where quick results and instant gratification are valued, meditation is often sold as if it were the final treasure. People are promised enlightenment in 10 days or inner peace in a few simple steps. Yet the truth is that meditation is not an achievement to be collected. It is not a medal we wear or a special identity we claim. It is a process, a discipline, a method that works only when combined with right intention and deep reflection. The Buddha did not awaken by holding on to meditation itself. He awakened by using meditation to see through the illusions of permanence, satisfaction, and selfhood. As we begin this exploration, we must ask ourselves, what happens when we mistake the means for the end? A person may spend years chasing pleasant meditative experiences, becoming attached to bliss, light, or visions. Another may feel proud of their ability to sit for long hours without moving. But if all this effort does not lead to letting go of greed, to a gentler heart, to freedom from clinging, then the purpose is missed. Meditation is meant to open the door to wisdom, not to become another prison made of stillness. The true beauty of meditation is revealed only when it is placed in its proper role. It is like a lamp that lights the way in a dark forest. No one mistakes the lamp for the destination. It is valued because it allows us to see the path. In the same way, meditation allows us to see the patterns of mind and body with clarity. It does not, by itself, remove the roots of suffering, but it prepares the ground for wisdom to do so. By remembering this, we protect ourselves from the trap of attachment, from the pride of thinking, "I am a meditator," and instead return to the simplicity of using meditation as a tool for awakening. This is the perspective we will unfold in this lecture. Meditation as a means, not as an end. It is essential, powerful, and transformative, but only when understood as part of a greater journey. We will look into how the Buddha placed meditation within the broader path of practice, why mistaking it for the goal can lead us astray, and how to rediscover its true purpose in our own lives. By the end, it should be clear that meditation is like a road. It can take us far, but it is not where we stop. It is what brings us closer to freedom, closer to the heart of awakening. To understand meditation in the way the Buddha taught it, we must first see that it was never presented as an isolated practice. In modern times, people often lift meditation out of its larger framework and treat it as if it were the entire path. They see it as a single technique, a method that can stand alone, independent of everything else. But in the original teaching, meditation was one part of a much wider way of living, a way that included ethics, wisdom, and mental discipline working together as a complete system. To separate meditation from that system is like taking one wheel from a cart and expecting it to roll forward on its own. It is important to remember that the Buddha never taught meditation as a magic solution. Instead, he placed it carefully within a path that guides a person step by step toward liberation. At the heart of this path, meditation appears as concentration, mindfulness, and the cultivation of mental clarity. But these qualities do not grow in a vacuum. They depend on the foundation of ethical living, refraining from harming others, being honest, avoiding harmful speech, and living with kindness. Without this foundation, the mind cannot truly settle, because guilt, regret, and conflict constantly disturb it. Imagine trying to make clear water in a bowl while someone keeps dropping mud into it. In the same way, if we live without ethical care, our meditation cannot bring calm or insight. The Buddha insisted that meditation be supported by morality and guided by wisdom, for only then does it lead to genuine freedom. Another point often overlooked is that meditation in the original teaching was never about escaping from the world. It was not about hiding in a cave of silence or running away from difficulties. Instead, it was about training the mind so that we could live more clearly and more awake in every situation. The stillness of meditation was not an end in itself, but a preparation that allows insight to arise. For example, when the mind is restless, it cannot see things as they are. It jumps from one thought to another, pulled by desires and fears. But when the mind is steadied through meditation, it becomes like a calm lake that reflects the trees and the sky without distortion. This clear reflection allows us to understand impermanence, suffering, and the absence of a permanent self. Meditation, therefore, was taught as a tool to make the mind steady enough to see the truth, not as the final truth itself. In the Buddha's time, there were many spiritual seekers who already practiced meditation in different forms. Some trained in techniques that led to deep states of absorption where the mind became unified and peaceful beyond ordinary experience. The Buddha himself learned these methods from respected teachers and mastered them. Yet he realized that, while such states brought great calm, they did not cut through the roots of craving and ignorance. They did not bring lasting freedom. This realization shaped how he taught meditation to his own followers. He did not dismiss those methods, but he placed them in their rightful place as useful, supportive, yet incomplete without wisdom. He showed that meditation was part of the path, but not the destination. When we reflect on this, we see that the original role of meditation was both practical and profound. It was practical because it trained the mind in focus, discipline, and calm. These qualities are useful not only for spiritual practice, but for all aspects of life. A focused mind works more effectively, listens more deeply, and responds with greater patience. Yet it was also profound, because meditation prepared the ground for insight into the deepest truths of existence. This double role is essential to understand. If we look at meditation only as a practical skill, we may limit it to stress relief or better health. If we look at it only as a mystical gateway, we may chase after extraordinary states and become attached to them. But when we see it in its original context, we realize it is both a training of the mind that supports daily living and a preparation for liberation. This understanding protects us from two extremes. On one side, there is the modern tendency to reduce meditation to a wellness practice, stripped of its spiritual depth. On the other side, there is the old danger of mistaking meditation states for enlightenment itself. The Buddha avoided both extremes by showing meditation as part of a balanced path. Ethics, meditation, and wisdom form three strands of the same rope. And without all three, the rope cannot pull us across the river of suffering. Meditation alone is not enough, but without it, the mind remains too distracted to see clearly. It is only when meditation is placed in its original context that it becomes powerful. Thus, when we speak of meditation in the teaching of the Buddha, we must always remember that it is not a practice floating in empty space. It is rooted in a life lived with care and compassion, and it flowers only when nourished by the waters of wisdom. To meditate in this way is not to chase blissful experiences, but to train the mind, so that it can become free. This is the original vision. Meditation as a means, a path, a precious tool, always pointing beyond itself to the greater goal of awakening. One of the greatest obstacles on the path of practice is not the absence of meditation, but the misunderstanding of meditation. When people mistake the means for the goal, they trap themselves in illusions even while sitting on the cushion with closed eyes. This confusion has existed from ancient times up until today. Many sincere seekers become fascinated by the experiences they encountered during meditation and begin to believe that those experiences are the final awakening. But the truth is that calm states, visions, blissful feelings, and even profound silence are not the same as liberation. They are passing conditions. They arise, they fade, and if we cling to them as if they were permanent or ultimate, we simply create another prison of attachment. Meditation becomes another chain, even if it is made of golden light. Consider a person who enters meditation and suddenly feels waves of bliss spreading through the body. The mind feels open, limitless, and deeply content. In that moment, they may believe they have reached the ultimate goal. But the next day, when they sit again, the bliss does not come. Frustration appears, doubt arises, and they begin to chase the lost experience. The very act of clinging to yesterday's bliss becomes a new form of suffering. This is the danger of mistaking the means for the goal. Meditation was meant to reveal the changing nature of all experiences, but if we grasp at those experiences as if they were eternal, we miss the lesson. Another common danger is pride. A person may develop the ability to sit still for many hours or to enter states of deep concentration, where the body feels dissolved and the mind becomes radiant. They may look at others and think, "I am more advanced. I am closer to enlightenment." This subtle pride blocks the growth of wisdom. The Buddha taught that liberation is found in letting go of I and mine. Yet pride strengthens the very illusion of self that must be abandoned. Meditation in this case, rather than reducing ego, becomes food for ego. The practitioner may become attached to the identity of being a meditator, forgetting that the point is to let go of all identities. We can also see another form of danger in the modern world, where meditation is promoted as a cure-all product. Apps, workshops, and books often advertise meditation as the key to happiness, success, and inner peace, promising results in just a few minutes a day. While such practices may indeed provide relaxation and temporary relief, they risk turning meditation into a commodity, stripped of its true depth. When people treat meditation as a quick fix, they are mistaking a small benefit for the highest purpose. They believe the goal has been reached when, in fact, they have only touched the surface. In this way, meditation becomes a consumer good rather than a doorway to wisdom. To understand why this is a danger, we must remember what the actual goal is. The Buddha's aim was not simply to create pleasant states of mind, but to uproot the causes of suffering, greed, hatred, and ignorance. Meditation helps weaken these roots by calming the mind and making it clear. But calmness by itself does not destroy greed. Bliss by itself does not remove hatred. Concentration by itself does not dissolve ignorance. Only wisdom can do that, and meditation is the soil in which wisdom can grow. If we mistake the soil for the fruit, we will starve in the middle of abundance. There are countless stories of seekers who fell into these traps. Some became addicted to visions and supernatural experiences, chasing lights, sounds, and sensations as if they were signs of enlightenment. Others clung to the peace of meditation so tightly that they avoided facing the realities of life. Instead of becoming free, they built a spiritual cocoon that protected them from discomfort but also prevented real growth. The Buddha's teaching warns us against these dangers. He did not reject meditation, but he urged us not to stop halfway. The path is not about building a palace of calmness to live in forever, but about using calmness as a foundation for wisdom to cut through the roots of delusion. The danger of mistaking the means for the goal can be compared to a person lost in a forest at night who finds a torch. The torch gives light, and the person feels relieved. But instead of using the torch to find the way out of the forest, they sit down, stare at the flame, and imagine they have already reached safety. The light was never the goal. The goal was to leave the forest. In the same way, meditation provides clarity, but the goal is liberation from suffering. If we mistake the clarity itself for liberation, we remain in the forest, perhaps more comfortable, but still bound. What makes this danger so subtle is that meditation experiences can feel so profound, so extraordinary, that they easily fool us into thinking we have reached the end. Ordinary pleasures of the world are easier to recognize as temporary, but spiritual pleasures are harder to let go of because they seem so pure. Yet the Buddha's insight was that clinging, no matter how refined, still leads to bondage. To be attached to a vision of light is no different in principle from being attached to a piece of gold. Both are impermanent, both will pass away, and both create suffering when lost. Meditation must be understood as a tool that teaches us this truth, not as a treasure to hoard. Therefore, we must approach meditation with humility and with the constant reminder of its true role. It is a powerful means, but not the end. To stop at the bliss, to cling to the visions, or to build an identity out of practice is to turn medicine into poison. The real aim is to use meditation to cultivate insight into the nature of reality, so that we can finally let go of all clinging. In this way, we avoid the danger of mistaking the path for the destination and instead continue walking until we reach true freedom. To see meditation rightly, we must view it not as an achievement to be gained, but as a training to be cultivated. Many people begin meditation with the idea that it is like a competition, something to measure in terms of progress or results. They ask themselves, how many hours can I sit? How deeply can I go into concentration? How many blissful states have I experienced? This way of thinking transforms meditation into a kind of trophy collection, where each experience becomes a medal to hang around the neck of the ego. But the Buddha's teaching never presented meditation as a scoreboard. It is not about winning or proving oneself. Meditation is closer to training the body in exercise or sharpening a tool. We do not go to the gym to win a medal for lifting weights. We train the body so that it can serve us better in life. In the same way, meditation is training the mind so that it becomes steady, clear, and ready to see reality as it truly is. When we understand meditation as training, we release the pressure of expecting dramatic results. We stop waiting for visions, supernatural powers, or lightning bolts of enlightenment to strike us. Instead, we patiently return to the simple act of observing, breathing, and being aware. Just as a musician trains daily to master an instrument, not for one spectacular performance, but for lifelong skill, the meditator trains the mind again and again so that clarity and balance become natural. The point is not to chase fireworks of experience, but to cultivate a mind that can face the ordinary and the extraordinary with equal steadiness. This is why meditation is sometimes compared to sharpening a knife. A dull blade cannot cut through anything, no matter how much force is used. But with steady sharpening, stroke by stroke, the blade becomes fine and precise. The act of sharpening is not glamorous, and it requires patience. Yet the result is a tool that can accomplish what it was meant to do. Meditation is like that. Each session, whether calm or restless, is part of the sharpening. Even if we feel we achieved nothing on a particular day, the training continues. Slowly, the mind becomes less scattered, less reactive, more able to observe without being swept away. The goal is not the sharpening itself, but the clear seeing that becomes possible once the tool is sharp. Another helpful image is that of planting a seed. We do not plant a seed and then demand fruit the next day. We water it, protect it, and let time do its work. Meditation works in the same way. It trains us to cultivate conditions, mindfulness, concentration, and patience. From these conditions, insight naturally grows. If we see meditation as achievement, we may dig up the soil every day to see if the seed has sprouted, destroying the very growth we hope for. But if we see it as training, we simply keep nurturing the soil, confident that the fruit will appear in its own time. The practice itself becomes the reward, not the momentary result. Seeing meditation as training also helps us face difficulties. Many people grow discouraged when they encounter restlessness, boredom, or painful emotions during practice. They think they are failing, that they are not progressing. But if meditation is training, then every challenge is part of the discipline. A runner does not become strong by running only when the weather is perfect. They train in the rain, in the heat, and in the cold. Each condition strengthens them in a different way. Likewise, the mind becomes strong not by meditating only when it feels pleasant, but by learning to stay present through discomfort, confusion, and distraction. Every session, easy or hard, is valuable when we see it as training. The difference between achievement and training is also clear in how we relate to others. When meditation is seen as achievement, we may compare ourselves to other practitioners, feeling either proud or inferior depending on what we believe they have attained. But when meditation is seen as training, there is no competition. Each person is simply working with their own mind, at their own pace, facing their own challenges. We encourage one another, not as rivals chasing the same prize, but as fellow travelers training for the same journey. The spirit becomes one of compassion and humility rather than pride and rivalry. Most importantly, meditation as training keeps us focused on the real purpose, preparing the mind for wisdom. A trained mind is like a clear mirror. It reflects things as they are, without distortion. But if the mind is untrained, it is like a dirty or cracked mirror, showing us only fragments and shadows. The act of sitting down each day, watching the breath, observing thoughts, and letting go, is not an end to be celebrated in itself. It is the polishing of the mirror. When the mirror is clear, wisdom sees directly. All things are impermanent, unsatisfactory, and without a permanent self. That seeing is what frees us. Meditation itself cannot deliver freedom unless it is used as training toward this seeing. Thus, we must remind ourselves again and again. Meditation is not about reaching a point where we can say, I have achieved something. It is about steady cultivation. It is about learning, practicing, and refining. It is about letting the mind become flexible, calm, and strong enough to hold wisdom. The day we stop treating meditation as a medal and start treating it as training is the day we step onto the real path. From then on, each breath, each moment of awareness, becomes part of a living discipline that slowly transforms us from within. The transformation is not in a single achievement, but in the gradual unfolding of a mind that is trained to see clearly, to let go, and to awaken. If meditation is a means, then we must ask, what is the end that it points to? The answer in the Buddha's teaching is clear and consistent. The true end is wisdom, and through wisdom, liberation. All other aspects of the path exist to serve this purpose. Ethical conduct prepares the ground by calming the storms of conflict and guilt. Meditation steadies and sharpens the mind so that it can see with clarity. But it is wisdom, the direct understanding of how things really are, that cuts the root of suffering. Without wisdom, even the most disciplined life and the deepest meditation remain incomplete. With wisdom, even ordinary acts of mindfulness can become gateways to freedom. When we speak of wisdom in this context, we do not mean collecting knowledge or mastering intellectual theories. We mean the kind of deep seeing that transforms the heart. It is the realization that everything we cling to is impermanent, that every experience carries the mark of unsatisfactoriness, and that the idea of a permanent self is an illusion. These truths are not to be believed because a teacher says so, but to be directly observed in the movements of our own body and mind. Meditation makes this possible because it slows us down, steadies us, and gives us the calm space in which insight can arise. But the insight itself is not meditation. It is what meditation allows us to see. Meditation is the lamp. Wisdom is the light that reveals the path, and liberation is the freedom of walking beyond the darkness. The Buddha himself showed this distinction in his own journey. Before his awakening, he practiced with teachers who guided him into the most refined states of concentration. In those states, the mind seemed infinite, timeless, and pure. Many would have stopped there, believing they had reached the final peace. Yet he recognized that these states, however sublime, were still conditioned, still subject to change. When he emerged from them, craving and ignorance still lurked in the background. The experience was temporary, not final. Only when he turned his sharpened mind toward the truths of impermanence, suffering, and non-self did he break through. What liberated him was not the bliss of meditation, but the wisdom that saw through all illusions. This is why he taught that meditation is to be used as a foundation for insight, not as an end to. Cling to. Liberation in this sense is not some distant heaven or mystical place to which we escape. It is a transformation of the way the mind relates to experience here and now. A liberated mind no longer clings to pleasure or resists pain. It no longer creates suffering out of change, loss, or uncertainty. It sees things as they are, arising and passing away, without grasping. This freedom is not cold or detached, but filled with compassion, because the heart is no longer bound by self-centered craving. The walls of ego fall, and with them the barriers between oneself and others. Meditation supports this liberation by training the mind to be still and clear, but the end is not the stillness itself. The end is the freedom that comes when wisdom sees through all forms of clinging. To illustrate, imagine a person locked in a prison cell. Meditation can be compared to cleaning the floor of the cell, arranging the furniture, and making the space quiet and pleasant. This makes life in the cell easier, but it is not freedom. Wisdom is like discovering the key and unlocking the door. Only then can the prisoner step out and be free. Of course, without meditation, the mind is often too restless to notice the key, too clouded to see the door. But with meditation, the clarity arises that allows wisdom to act. Still, the goal is not to polish the cell forever but to walk out of it. The end is freedom, not a cleaner prison. When we see this clearly, our relationship to meditation changes. We no longer measure our progress by how calm we felt during a sitting, or how many hours we endured without moving. Instead, we ask, has this practice helped me to see more clearly? Has it weakened my greed, my anger, my delusion? Has it led to greater compassion, patience, and understanding? If the answer is yes, then meditation is fulfilling its role as a means. If the answer is no, then even the most spectacular experiences are just another kind of distraction. The true measure of meditation is whether it supports wisdom and leads us closer to liberation. This is why the Buddha emphasized balance. Too little meditation, and the mind remains scattered. Too much focus on meditation alone, without reflection, and the mind becomes trapped in refined states. The balance is to meditate enough to steady the mind, and then to direct that steadiness toward insight. Insight reveals that life is a stream of changing conditions, never solid, never permanent, never fully controllable. To see this is to loosen the grip of craving. To loosen craving is to free the heart. This is liberation, and it is the true end of the path. So, when we say meditation is a means, not an end, we do not mean it is unimportant. On the contrary, it is vital. Without meditation, wisdom remains only an idea. But meditation alone is not enough. It must open the door to insight, and insight must lead to release. The calm of meditation is precious, but the freedom of liberation is beyond comparison. The calm is like resting in a safe harbor. Liberation is like sailing into the open sea with no fear, no chains, and no limits. The harbor is necessary, but it is not the journey's end. The end is freedom, and freedom comes only with wisdom. Stories from the Buddhist tradition give us powerful reminders of how meditation was meant to be used, and also how it can be misunderstood. The Buddha often spoke about monks and seekers who devoted themselves to long hours of meditation but fell into the trap of believing that meditation itself was the goal. Some became attached to visions of light, others to voices or special experiences, and some to the peace of deep concentration. These stories were not told to shame them, but to guide future generations, to show that without wisdom, meditation by itself could not bring freedom. One well-known example is of seekers during the Buddha's lifetime who practiced under other teachers. Before meeting him, these teachers taught methods that led to extraordinary states of consciousness where the mind seemed infinite and all boundaries dissolved. Students believed these states to be the highest truth, but when they returned to ordinary awareness, their old habits of craving and ignorance remained. The Buddha himself mastered these practices but realized that even the most sublime experience was still temporary. He left those teachers, not because their methods were useless, but because he saw they were incomplete. He later explained that such experiences were like resting on a high mountain plateau, peaceful and beautiful, but not yet the summit. The summit was liberation, and to reach it required wisdom beyond meditation alone. There are also stories of monks who mistook the joy of meditation for awakening. Some felt waves of happiness in their practice and concluded they were enlightened. But when difficulties arose, when they faced illness, conflict, or loss, they discovered their joy was fragile. The Buddha gently corrected them, showing that true freedom is not shaken by conditions. The joy of meditation is valuable, but it is not unshakable. Only wisdom makes freedom unshakable. This lesson is repeated again and again in the tradition. Meditation is a support, not the final step. Another kind of example comes from those who used meditation rightly. Many of the Buddha's close disciples trained their minds in meditation, not to hold on to bliss, but to sharpen their clarity. With calm and steady minds, they turned their attention inward and observed the rise and fall of thoughts, feelings, and perceptions. Through this observation, they saw the truth of impermanence, the unsatisfactory nature of clinging, and the absence of a fixed self. This wisdom broke the chains of suffering. Their stories remind us that meditation fulfilled its role only when it led to insight. Without the insight, it was incomplete. With the insight, it was the gateway to liberation. There are also accounts of practitioners who focused so heavily on meditation techniques that they forgot about ethical conduct or compassion. Some believed that by achieving deep concentration, they had no need for kindness or restraint in their daily lives. But the Buddha reminded them that meditation built on an unwholesome life was unstable, like a house built on sand. Such stories highlight the danger of tearing meditation away from its full context. When practiced alongside ethical living and guided by the aim of wisdom, meditation blossomed into something powerful. But when practiced in isolation, it often led to pride, confusion, or disappointment. Perhaps the most famous image comes from the Buddha himself. When he compared his teaching to a raft, he explained that the path, including meditation, was like a raft built to cross a dangerous river. Once we reach the far shore of safety, we do not carry the raft on our backs. We leave it behind. In the same way, meditation is precious for crossing over the floods of confusion, but it is not to be mistaken for the shore itself. This parable captures the heart of his message. Meditation is a tool, not the destination. These stories from the tradition continue to guide us because human nature has not changed. Even today, people can fall into the same traps, clinging to pleasant states, building identities out of practice, or neglecting the balance of wisdom and ethics. And just as in the past, the remedy is the same: to remember the true end of the path. Meditation is honored, respected, and practiced with dedication, but always with the understanding that it serves wisdom, and wisdom serves liberation. In this way, the examples of the past shine a clear light for us, showing both the pitfalls and the possibilities, reminding us not to stop halfway, but to keep walking until the journey is complete. In our modern world, meditation has become a popular word that almost everyone has heard. It appears in mobile apps, corporate workshops, wellness retreats, and even schools. People are encouraged to meditate for stress relief, better sleep, improved focus, and emotional balance. This shows that meditation has reached far beyond monasteries and temples, becoming part of everyday life for many people around the globe. Yet with this expansion comes a danger. Meditation is often misunderstood stripped of its deeper purpose, and turned into a product to be consumed. It is praised as the ultimate solution for all problems, as if sitting quietly with eyes closed were the final goal. But when we look closer, we see that in modern times meditation is often treated not as a means, but as an end in itself. And this misunderstanding can lead us away from the true freedom the Buddha pointed to. Today, it is common to hear people say that they meditate to become enlightened or find ultimate peace. But in practice, many stop at relaxation or use meditation like a pill to reduce stress. They may feel calm after a session, but soon the stress returns because the root causes of suffering are still untouched. Others chase after pleasant feelings during meditation, believing that if they can repeat the same blissful state, they have reached some higher truth. This pursuit is not new, but in modern times it has been amplified by the way meditation is marketed. Companies advertise quick results, 10 minutes a day to change your life, guided sessions to remove anxiety instantly, or playlists that promise enlightenment in a week. The danger is that people begin to think meditation itself is the answer, rather than seeing it as a tool that prepares the mind for insight and wisdom. At the same time, meditation is often separated from ethics and understanding, the very foundations that make it effective. In its original context, meditation was never a standalone activity. It was part of a whole way of living based on compassion, honesty, and restraint. Without that foundation, meditation may still bring calm, but it lacks depth. Imagine polishing a mirror that is still covered with dust because we never cleaned the surface properly. No matter how much we polish, the reflection will not appear clearly. In the same way, meditation without ethical grounding and wisdom cannot reflect the truth of life. This is one of the greatest risks in modern times. Meditation reduced to a technique without the moral and philosophical framework that gives it power. Modern life also encourages the attitude of measuring and comparing. People track how many minutes they meditate, how many days they have kept up their streak, or how quickly they feel results. While discipline is useful, this way of thinking can turn meditation into another form of competition or self-image. Instead of becoming free from ego, people build a new identity. I am a meditator. I am more mindful than others. I am spiritual. This is the opposite of the purpose of meditation, which is to loosen the grip of self-centered thinking. Stories from the tradition remind us of how even monks in the past fell into pride about their meditation. And in our modern age, the temptation is perhaps even stronger because meditation has become a public badge of identity. Yet we should not see modern developments as only negative. The widespread interest in meditation shows that people are searching for something beyond material success. The stresses of technology, work pressure, and constant distraction push many to look inward. This search is real and sincere. The challenge is to guide it in the right direction, to help people see that meditation is not the destination, but a doorway. The modern spread of meditation can be a great opportunity if it is connected back to its original aim. When people begin to see that meditation is not about escaping life, but about seeing life clearly, not about chasing pleasant states, but about understanding the nature of all states, then modern meditation can become a bridge to genuine wisdom. One of the most important lessons for modern practitioners is patience. The culture we live in values speed, efficiency, and instant results. But meditation is not about achieving something quickly. It is about slowly training the mind to see things as they are. When people meditate only to get rid of stress right away, they miss the deeper transformation. Stress may return tomorrow, but insight once gained does not disappear. It changes the way we live, the way we understand ourselves and others. This kind of change cannot be rushed or bought. It requires time, sincerity, and a willingness to look beyond meditation as a method of comfort. Another lesson is balance. In the modern world, people often swing between extremes. Some dismiss meditation entirely as useless, while others worship it as the highest good. The truth lies in between. Meditation is a powerful tool, but only when balanced with reflection, learning, and ethical living. A person who meditates daily but remains selfish and unkind has missed the point. A person who studies wisdom but never calms the mind may also struggle to apply that wisdom in real life. The balance of meditation and Wisdom together is what brings growth. Modern times, with their openness and access to knowledge, give us the chance to rediscover this balance if we are willing to look deeper. In the end, the challenge of meditation in modern times is the same as in ancient times, to remember its true purpose. It is not about clinging to experiences or chasing peace for its own sake. It is not about building a new identity or achieving quick success. It is about preparing the ground of the mind so that wisdom can take root, so that we can see clearly the impermanence of all things, the emptiness of self, and the futility of craving. Only with this understanding does meditation fulfill its role. Modern practitioners, whether they sit for 10 minutes on an app or spend hours in retreat, can benefit greatly if they keep this perspective in heart. Meditation in itself is beautiful, but its beauty lies in the doorway it opens, not in the room where we sit. As we come to the end of this reflection on meditation, it is important to return to the central message. Meditation is a means, not an end. In many ways, this truth is simple, yet it is also subtle because the human mind is easily tempted to hold on to experiences, to build identity out of practice, and to look for safety in what feels pleasant and stable. Meditation offers many gifts: calmness, clarity, peace, even joy. These are precious and should not be dismissed. But if we mistake them for the ultimate goal, we miss the deeper freedom that the Buddha pointed toward. The purpose of meditation has never been to create a perfect mood, to escape from the difficulties of life, or to decorate the mind with extraordinary experiences. Its purpose has always been to prepare the ground of the heart and mind, so that wisdom can arise, and through wisdom, true liberation can be realized. When we look back at the journey we have traced, we see how meditation fits into a wider path. It was always taught in harmony with ethical living and with the cultivation of understanding. Without these, meditation can easily become hollow or even harmful. But when grounded in compassion and guided by the search for truth, it becomes a powerful tool that cuts through illusion. The great teachers of the past never encouraged people to cling to meditation for its own sake. They taught meditation as a discipline, like sharpening a tool, so that the mind could see reality with precision. When that vision arises, when impermanence is seen clearly, when the nature of craving is understood, when the illusion of a fixed self is dissolved, then meditation has fulfilled its role. At that point, meditation is not discarded, but is no longer worshipped as the final answer. It has done its work, like a raft that has carried us across the river. In the modern world, this message is perhaps more urgent than ever. With meditation spreading into every corner of society, we see both great opportunities and great risks. The opportunity is that millions of people are now open to looking inward, to calming the restless mind, to exploring dimensions of life beyond material gain. The risk is that meditation becomes a shallow product, sold as a quick cure for stress or a badge of identity. If we forget the deeper aim, we may practice for years and yet remain stuck in the same cycle of craving and disappointment. But if we remember that meditation is a tool, we can use it wisely. We can let it steady our mind, open our heart, and prepare us for the insights that truly liberate. The conclusion we must carry forward is not to undervalue meditation, but to value it rightly. It is essential, but it is not sufficient. It is powerful, but it is not ultimate. The peace of meditation is beautiful, but it is still conditioned and temporary. The freedom of wisdom, on the other hand, is unshakable. Meditation points us toward that freedom, but it cannot replace it. To stop at meditation is like stopping halfway through a journey, resting in the shade while the destination lies ahead. The rest may be pleasant, but the journey is not complete. We honor meditation most fully when we let it carry us beyond itself, to the insight and liberation it was always meant to serve. Let us then practice meditation with sincerity and dedication, but let us never forget why we practice. We sit not to build a stronger sense of self, but to loosen it. We breathe not to chase comfort, but to see clearly the fleeting nature of all things. We calm the mind not to escape life, but to face it with wisdom. When practiced in this way, meditation becomes a doorway, a bridge, a path. It brings us to the shore where clinging ends and freedom begins. And when that shore is reached, meditation has fulfilled its highest purpose.